fighting the demons in our life because we'll stand up against them, we'll confront them instead of pushing them back under the bed, hoping that they'll go away. Because they're not going to go away, they're just going to accumulate. So in life, man, we leave a lot of things undone. Right? There's a lot of things that, for whatever reason, maybe at that moment, we just don't have the strength or the wisdom or the knowledge to confront them, or maybe we just procrastinate and push them aside, or maybe we don't even have the courage to combat and confront that evil, that darkness that lurks just outside of the shadows waiting to destroy us, and we're tired. Maybe we don't even have the strength to face those different situations, so we leave them undone. And many of an addict has many of those skeletons in the closet, if you will, that we've just pushed to the side. We couldn't face them at the time for whatever reason. We leave those things undone. And therefore, we get tripped up. And it may not be right at first. It's not that you push something aside and then it trips you up immediately. Maybe we've pushed this to the side. We've said, we'll deal with that later. We'll deal with this later. And we'll push everything to the boundaries so that we can focus on us and our addiction. But eventually it's going to trip us up. And that's works in the physical sense and in a metaphorical sense, whether we have these things inside of the head that we just push to the back and we don't want to deal with them. Eventually, they're going to trip us up. And I like to think of this in the manner of tying your shoes, right? All of us, we've tied our shoes 15, 20, 30, 40 years now. We can do it with our eyes closed, with one hand behind our back, whatever. You can tie your shoes. You are a master of tying shoes. You don't even put any thought into it. You could do it in your sleep. But if we think about when we first started tying our shoe, it's a difficult process. It takes some hand-eye coordination, some finger dexterity. This loop, this crisscross bunny ear. It's difficult. And if you go and watch a 3-year-old, 4-year-old trying to tie their shoes, at first it's difficult. They're clumsy. They may get frustrated and angry, so they leave a lot of shoes untied. We see them dirty shoestrings falling around. They're tripping on their shoestrings. Some kids just wear Velcro. Some of the parents are frustrated, and it's easier to just give them a slip-on shoe than deal with that. But if the child never persevered through those days or weeks or maybe months of learning how to tie their shoes and getting comfortable and familiar with the process, they would go their whole life tripping up on their shoestrings, having these dirty, disentangled shoelaces and tripping and falling and dealing with the bumps and bruises that accompany not going through the process of learning how to tie your shoes. And that's the same thing when we push things to the side because they're difficult or we don't want to put in the time and effort to deal with them. Eventually, they're going to come back and trip us up, right? And that's in the physical sense, the metaphorical sense, the spiritual sense. Things undone, things unkept will always come to bite you in the ass, thus tripping you up. And as addicts, we've dealt with this for so long, this pushing things to the side because we don't want to deal with them, and we hope, maybe by a miraculous happenstance of God, that it'll take care of themselves. But as we grow and as we mature and as we've dealt with life, we know things don't take care of themselves without us putting in some action. When we begin to endure the difficult process, such as learning to tie your shoes, it takes a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, this repeated process, and eventually, years later, you become a master, and you can do it with your eyes closed, one hand behind the back, in your sleep. You do it without much thought. And so here's the question of addicts who want everything to be easy is, what if instead of wanting it to be easy, we actually told ourselves, okay, this process of getting clean, this process of straightening out my life, this process of getting everything in order so that it actually can maintain some form of stability. What if I begin to realize that all that stability, all that order comes with the price of putting in the work, putting in the effort, putting in the action? Quit being this lazy asshole. Put on the mindset of a hero that says, yes, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be arduous. It's going to be uphill sometimes. There's going to be some dragons to slay. There's going to be some dark monsters lurking in the shadows underneath my bed. But if I'll get up, put on one shoe, start fumbling around, start messing around with the hand-eye coordination, the dexterity, and get a little uncomfortable and realize that it's going to cost a little bit of time, but it's going to reward me with something very sustainable. When that becomes our mindset, we're no longer an asshole addict. We're someone that's able or capable of fighting the demons in our life, because we'll stand up against them. We'll confront them instead of pushing them back under the bed, hoping that they'll go away, because they're not going to go away. They're just going to accumulate and multiply until it's this big ass monster under the bed that we'll never be able to get rid of. If we think about tying our shoes now, it's easy. It's very simple. It's not complicated. But if you take that same shoe to a 3-year-old, it's very complicated. It's like doing complicated math. But if you deal with it, you confront it head on, as time goes by, you don't even have to think about it because you've mastered that. There's a lot of things in our life that we have left untied, that we've left unkept, that we've pushed back under the bed. But if we would begin to confront them, and maybe you confront one at a day, and it's like that, tying the shoe. It's just getting in that process, a repeated process of I'm learning how to be a responsible being. I'm learning how to be productive. And if we do this day in and day out, that's the concept of being a hero. You may not slay the dragon's head in one attempt, but day in, day out, you build that character of a hero that begins to master those things that we've left untied. Therefore, we remove the obstacles that have the ability to trip us up. And each of us have these different shoes that we need to tie. You got to figure out what you've left untied in your life. You got to pick it up and begin fumbling through that process of bunny loop, bunny ear, whatever the hell it is. And I promise you, eventually you'll have the shoes tied in every facet of your life, and you'll be walking smoothly, strong, chin out, head up, chest out, shoulders back, being that strong, heroic type that defeats the asshole that wants to attach itself to the addict personality inside of each of us. I love you guys. You will hear from me next episode.